So the UN, and again, all of this censorship and this ID on the internet, the real reason why they want your ID on the internet is so they can prosecute you for speaking your mind online and speaking up. It's not for children's safety, it's for their safety. Children are simply a misdirection. Most people are aligned on the idea that kids shouldn't be on porn websites. You don't need to have an argument about this. Most people agree on this. The problem is whenever, well, I mean, I'll play the video. I think that there it is.
Welcome back, guys. Hope you've been having a great weekend. Unfortunately, though, we've got a number of very disturbing updates to go over in this video regarding the ongoing situation with various governments trying to invade your privacy, censor you, change the internet for the worse. You know, all the sort of stuff we've been talking about for about the last week
Well,
now.
they've already been censoring people, and they've already, people didn't have privacy to begin with. And now it's going to be even more extreme with every single website having to do it individually, which is going to cause so many problems.
As it's still getting worse, unfortunately. Now, I've got this wonderful little graphic here on screen from the account SK Bytes. And this is just like a quick prologue of the stuff that's been going on leading up to this. It's a very, very brief recap. Then we'll get into all the new stuff, and I'll show you that in no specific order. I've got like 8 different things that, as mentioned, are all very disturbing. So before we get into that, let's just read this really quick. The graphic says, George Orwell was right. It's happening. Legal speech is now, quote unquote, harmful. Platforms forced to censor you or face ruin. Age checks equal surveillance.
By the way, surveillance and digital ID, they already have surveillance and digital ID. The real problem isn't the age checks. The real problem is the government using the information to prosecute you based off of speech laws. That's the real enemy. YouTube isn't your enemy. Spotify isn't your enemy. The government is the enemy. They are the ones that are trying to control what you say, and they are the ones that are making these companies do this. Do you think that YouTube wants to maintain a database of everybody's fucking driver's license? Why the fuck would they want to do that? No, they don't want that. They don't want to deal with any of this, because if they did, they would have done it earlier. The only reason why they do it is because they have to do it. To sell it? Well, they're not even selling it. That's the thing. They don't even say, they have a million other levels of data that they sell. They don't even need that. They already have that data for your analytics to begin with.
And digital ID, privacy crushed, dissent deleted. They're not banning ideas outright. They're programming the machines to erase them silently. The government has handed itself the power to police thought. This is no longer democracy. This is not new. This has been going on now. I think that the problem is that this makes the laws more of a direct threat rather than this just looming presence that people are worried about. Because now you have these laws that are directly in front of the public. Everybody can see it. It's right there. Digital dictatorship. And yeah, there is a little typo there, but hey, it's a nice graphic. So let's start with this clip that I saw posted by the account Skeletor Explain.
Skeletor!
Showing this member of the UN, Antonio Guterres, or however you say that. Obviously, as you can see, the quality's pretty low, but what's important is what he's saying. So let's play this 30-second clip. Yeah, this is quite an interesting clip. Let's take a look.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people.
It's not about spreading disinformation and hate. It's about spreading information and hate against him and people who he is on the same team with, basically. That's really what's going on here. That's what they care about. This is not about kids. It was never about kids.
Clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response.
So we've got this member of the UN using this rhetoric to try and justify what these various governments seem to be doing to the internet, saying, once again, digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate. all rhetoric, as mentioned, that they're just
Totally fine with me, by the way. Completely okay. That's totally all right. First Amendment. Cry about it. Go back to wherever you came from. Don't fucking come to America and tell us what we can and can't talk about. The fuck out. That's what I think.
trying to use to censor free speech, invade your privacy.
I don't want to listen to some fucking international bureaucrat try to dictate to me what my fucking laws should be. The fuck out of here.
Police whatever they deem as quote-unquote
Some
wrong
fat
thing.
old
You know, I
retard.
don't need to sit here explaining it. You guys surely understand all of this. And who exactly is this guy, Antonio Guterres? Well, first paragraph of Wikipedia is I'll be reading on this guy, but this says, a Portuguese politician and diplomat who is serving as the 9th and current Secretary General of the United Nations since 2017. A member of the Portuguese Socialist Party,
Who would have guessed?
Guterres served as the Prime Minister of Portugal from 1995 to 2002. This tweet from Samantha Smith goes on to detail with a video clip we're going to watch how she was approached by UK's elite police squad, the one that we mentioned the other day when we
What?
read this article, which I'll just read the headline.
Elite police squad to monitor anti-migrant posts on social media. It's going to get real bad in the UK pretty soon. It's going to get real bad.
Of now, the one
Uh-oh.
that said elite police squad to monitor anti-migrant posts
You
on
know it.
social media. And you can
It's gonna
reasonably
happen.
presume this is the exact sort of quote-unquote
It'll be real
hateful
bad.
speech that Mr. Guterres was referring to in that UN speech in the clip that we watched
Yeah.
a moment ago. How dare you criticize these policies? You're not allowed to do that. You might get a knock on your door. And no, I'm not kidding. That seems to be what happened to Samantha. As she says, I went on TV to discuss Pakistani grooming gangs in my labor-run hometown of Telford. The next day, officers banged on my door, wanting to shut me up for exposing them. With the Online
Yep.
Safety Act now in force, no one is safe. If it
No. This has nothing to do with the Online Safety Act. They would have found this information without that. It would have been easy for them to do. You don't need the Online Safety Act to do this. They could have already done it before this.
happened to me, it can happen to anyone.
I was on your show last Monday, same
It is.
time practically. I came off, there was a fantastic
Yeah,
response.
they've been prosecuting the people for this for years. So obviously this new act that just happened clearly isn't clearly this didn't cause that to happen.
from the public. I was really, my heart was warmed by the support and outreach that I received from those that either didn't know what had been going on in Telford for decades. Up to 1,000 girls had been reported to have been abused by
Jesus.
grooming gangs since the 1980s.
Holy
or
shit.
those that had no idea that it could potentially still be going on, and the scale of police, council and social services failings. I went back home, I went back to Telford, and the next day around lunchtime 2 police officers banged on my door demanding that I speak to them about my interview.
Really? So the police who have done nothing for the entire third millennium to date suddenly were roused to activity by you going on television.
Yeah, they told me that they had gone round to all of the addresses they had on file for me. They had gone to my previous home addresses, the different...
Well, they're trying to intimidate her. They're trying to make her afraid of speaking out against it, and they're trying to push her into being quiet because maybe she hasn't completely broken the law, but she's done things that put their narrative at risk. So because they can't actually arrest her because of breaking the law, they just have to resort to intimidating her with the use of the police and the military, or probably militarized police. That's basically what's happening, right? So they can't put you in jail, but they can scare the shit out of you. They call it the non-crime hate incident.
accommodations that I'd stayed at looking for me, and eventually they located me. They hunted me down, they tracked
course
me,
they will.
banged on my door. Not akin,
Again,
not
like the government's not stupid. They're going to find out where you live.
too different to when they're knocking on the door of a perpetrator, of a potential criminal.
Yeah.
I was on FaceTime to my friend at the time, who said to me afterwards, I genuinely thought you were going to get arrested from the
Damn.
way that they were talking to you.
Of course, because they tried to scare her.
you would think that they would be protecting people who would be trying to expose these grooming gangs, right? Like, you would think the police should want to protect the people exposing them and go after them. But in some sort of twisted world, apparently they're trying to silence the people speaking out about that stuff.
They told me that, quote unquote, when you go on GB News and talk about grooming gangs in Telford, it's our duty to follow up with you.
Why? Why? Yeah, I'm curious why that is.
That's not actually true, is it?
Yeah.
No.
So the police are, among other things, lying to you.
It's funny, I said to them at the time, it was funny that they did absolutely nothing to bring my accusers to justice, but when I went on national TV, my abusers to justice, but when I went on national TV and talked about the industrial scale of their failings and their inaction in bringing to justice the perpetrators of vile sex crimes in Telford, that they are suddenly spurred into action to come and knock on my door and intimidate me into silence.
It's pretty
Of course, because they don't want anybody. The thing is that they know women speaking out about this stuff changes the cultural narrative, and it makes the migrants no longer the innocent, downtrodden masses that they can take advantage of people's emotions to justify bringing into the country. So what they are the most afraid of is women speaking out and sharing their stories about being, like assaulted or harassed or anything like that. Because if they do that and then people see that this is happening, the entire foundation of the lie that they've created falls apart. That's the reason why. And they're terrified of that foundation cracking. And so as soon as people realize that actually, no, these people are not, these super misunderstood groups of people, and they're actually, in some cases, bad actors, not all of them, obviously, but some of them are. And if you don't hold the ones that are bad accountable, people will assume that they're all bad. And that's what's happening.
These big butch coppers being so insecure.
Now arrest the police who help the gangs now? As I said, I think that eventually there will be enough people in the UK that are tired and upset about this. And I do think that what will happen is that the anti-immigrant sentiment will become so large that it will create a majority inside of the government, and they will be able to enact policy. And I think when that happens, that policy and the people that now are trying to suppress everybody talking about these grooming gangs, etc., these people will be lucky if they are alive. That's what's going to happen. They'll show no mercy. Yes. I guarantee you that the people that will take over and the people that do this will be absolutely fucking brutal. Protests have started already. That's nothing. No, I'm talking trust me. Again, they're still saying turn the boats away. Just wait till they start saying sink them, because that's what's next. And it would have never gotten to this point if they had treated the people who had reservations about migration seriously instead of calling them racists and banning them off of social media and putting them in jail. It would have never gotten to this point.
That you going on TV and criticizing them can drive them into action that they otherwise haven't taken for decades. Do you know who actually ordered up this, I guess raid is the word for it?
I have absolutely...
Well, obviously somebody who's at the government. And to be clear, it's bad. It's going to happen, but it's still bad. Of course this is bad. Yeah, tons of innocent people are going to be hurt by this. On both sides. Tons of them are. And this is going to be awful. And it's a problem that's a complete unforced error by the government.
No idea. I know that it was two police officers from the CSE team that knocked on my door. They said they had been working for the force for a year and 6 months respectively, and they were quote unquote...
I think another great example of this is you look at Alligator Alcatraz, where you have the president of the United States that just says, yeah, we're going to let illegal aliens get eaten by alligators and die. And everybody's like, yeah, based. True. Great. Awesome. He won the popular vote. 10 years ago, that would have gotten you canceled. Now it gets you elected. Imagine where we're going to be 10 years from now.
Trying to make a difference. I don't...
No way. As if it wasn't bad enough. I mean, that's just silly. I mean, I can't believe that. Oh, we're trying to make a difference here. How dare you speak against this stuff? You're not helping anyone. We're the ones trying to make a difference. You got to be kidding me, dude.
Yep.
I don't know what difference they were making by going after a victim rather than
When did he say let them get eaten by alligators? Somebody was interviewing him, and he said, well, so, like, is the idea that if they escape, they'll get attacked by alligators? And he says, like, yeah, I guess that's kind of the idea. Yeah, sure. It's pretty much about it. Yeah. Yeah, no, he straight up said it. Yeah, like he did.
Traitors, those that have been systematically using grooming and passing girls around, like, you know, like
well, for
decades.
Absolutely insane. Of course, there is so much that could be said about that. It is just vastly disturbing, and my apologies for having to cut some of that. You probably saw the disclaimers I put on screen for very brief portions of that clip. She, as mentioned, did go into further detail about these disgusting crimes. And yeah, just think of the worst possible stuff that can happen to women and children. And that's sort of stuff that she's talking about that they apparently don't want her talking about. And that takes us to the next part of the video. In the UK, the Office of Communications is getting more and more desperate, it seems. This account right here, Alex Armstrong, saying exposed. Ofcom, Office of Communications, are paying influencers to spread propaganda about the Online Safety Act in the UK.
What?
Orwell's 1984 isn't just here, it's in full motion. Thank you to Dr. Hoenderkamp for bringing this to my attention. And I gotta say, like, before I can even read this, if you're an influencer accepting this money and doing this, I mean, just pathetic beyond words, really. So, goes on to say, paid advertisement.
Where does it say paid advertisement? Where does it say?
It shows this Instagram account here. It reads, as of the 25th of July, anyone trying to access adult content online will have to prove they are over 18. This is not to ruin anyone's fun, but it's about time that children are protected online.
My skeptic inside of me makes me think that, is the advertisement for that, or is it for the can of soda that she's holding? Is that explained in the video? Like, I'm not convinced by this. Yeah, I'm sorry, but, like, this isn't, it's not convincing enough.
There is an enormous amount of content out there, but some of it is content that is made for adults and not children. This is just the start of trying to make the internet a safer place, and this arrow, which does cut off some of the text there, but the arrow points to, as you can see, this being an advertisement. So, yeah, I mean, if this is all true, this is not a doctored screenshot, which, I mean, I don't think it is, but, you know, as a disclaimer, I will say, assuming this is all true.
Olivia Bentley K. Somebody'd have to find the post and show me. But it looks like it, and you can see that this girl is advertising all kinds of products all the time. I don't think that we can say with certainty that her doing this advertisement, it was actually by this company. I think this is people looking for something, and they're looking so hard that they've made it up themselves. I don't, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I would not, I don't trust this yet.
I mean, how pathetic, man. Like, I couldn't imagine the sort of person that would take money to promote this nonsense, to stand up for this corruption, and to gaslight your own followers about it, to take the money and push this on your followers to try and spread the agenda of these corrupt politicians. I mean, I don't know how someone could possibly ever be okay with that. And it goes without saying, of course, but yeah, doing it for free would be bad too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all around, as mentioned, a really pathetic thing. Then I also saw this tweet about the Labour government in Australia and this app called Signal app, which is apparently a very popular messaging app in Australia. I've never heard of it before. If this is like popular around the world, I guess I'm just out of the loop. But the tweet reads from Aus Integrity. Breaking, Labour government demands backdoors into encrypted messaging apps. Whittaker, Signal app's president, said they would exit Australia before giving access. The quote being,
I think that every single company should obviously have to follow the law, and they should have to like give every information away if it's asked to by a judge. Just because a website has like an ideology of like, oh, this is the way it should be. If you want to do business in a country, you have to follow that country's laws. That's all there is to it. Like there's no way around this. They should leave. Well, then they can. But those are the two options. Yeah, so then they pull out. Absolutely.
Our commitment to end-to-end encryption, maintaining robust, technically guaranteed privacy for everyone who uses Signal, never wavers. And so the The text here in the article says Signal boss warns Apple X Australia if forced to hand over users' encrypted messages. So I'll admit I don't think I fully understand this one, but to my understanding, I don't think Signal currently holds decryption keys.
The principle is correct, but in this case, they should leave. Australia has some really draconian, shitty laws. Yeah, and that's totally their discretion to do that. But obviously, a company should not be able to defy the national laws of the country that they're doing business in because it goes against what their business model is or what their company ideals are. This is very obviously true, and if you applied this to any other thing that you guys would agree with, you would immediately realize that it's necessary. Of course, companies just. You think a company just gets to ignore a subpoena? That's ridiculous.
So, hypothetically, if the government were to demand like chat logs from their app, they wouldn't be able to hand them over, and this would mean that the government wants them to redesign the app in a way where they create this backdoor access that they would then give the Australian government, to which Signal believes would threaten their global security model.
Unless they're
and saying they'd rather
that's
leave.
a huge problem. And you're right that certain companies own the government and they're able to effectively operate without any sort of regulation. Or if in worst case, they can use the regulation against other companies that are their adversaries.
Australia, then do such a thing, unless I have this completely mistaken, which I might. And lastly, we've also got some news over in the US. This article from torrentfreak.com saying US senators introduced new pirate site blocking bill, Blockbeard. Now, it's actually a very wordy article, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will go over, for about a minute or so, what I find to be some of the highlight areas. Earlier this year, US
I think people are being misdirected. The frustration around these new internet laws is not, in my opinion, the big problem. The big problem are the speech laws that the internet laws are used to enforce. That's where the real big issue is. Because you wouldn't need to worry about going to jail if there wasn't a law against doing it. That's the main fucking problem. It's that they have all these laws in the UK, in Australia, in Canada, etc., that limit your freedom of speech and it prevents people from expressing themselves. That's fundamentally what the issue is.
Zoe Lofgren introduced a new pirate site blocking bill titled the Foreign Anti-Digital Piracy Act, FADPA. This week, a similar proposal was introduced by Senators Tillis, Coons, Blackburn, and Schiff. The bipartisan bill titled Block Bad Electronic Art and Recording Distributors, Blockbeard, aims to introduce a legal mechanism for rights holders to request site blocking orders. The site blocking proposal seeks to amend U.S. copyright law, enabling rights holders to request federal courts to designate online locations as a foreign digital piracy site, quote unquote. If that succeeds, courts can subsequently order U.S. service providers to block access to these sites.
There is more piracy that happens on YouTube than everywhere else on the internet put together. So unless you can apply this to YouTube, then I don't want to hear about it. This is just bullshit. Like, think about how many movie clips and things like that you've seen on YouTube. Do you think that was licensed by Paramount Studios? Was this licensed by Warner Brothers? No, of course not.
Pirate site designation would be dependent on rights holders showing that they are harmed by a site's activities, that reasonable efforts have been made to notify the site's operator, and that a reasonable investigation confirms the operator is not located within the U.S. Additionally, rights holders must show that the site is primarily designed for piracy, has limited commercial purpose, or is intentionally marketed by its operator to promote copyright infringing activities. If the court classifies a website as a foreign pirate site, rights holders can go back to court to request a blocking order. At this stage, the court will determine whether it is technically and practically feasible for ISPs to block the site and consider
This is the beginning, guys. The World Wide Web, I don't think will exist when we are old. Like when we're 65 or 70, we won't have the World Wide Web anymore.
Potential harm to the public interest.
There will be some residual vestigial places that are similar to that, but the way that we're on the internet right now, we're on the clock.
Orders would stay in place for a year with the option to extend if necessary. If
5
block
years
sites
for you?
switch to new locations, the court can also amend blocking orders to include new IP addresses and domain names. So yeah, Blockbeard and FADPA do seem to be very similar, mainly differing in the whole DNS.
You tripping? Okay, all right. Again, like I get mad all you want. I don't want this to happen. I think it's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Like I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen.
result or part of
that's it.
the proposals and the judicial process that they are also proposing. I could have phrased that better, but yeah. And that's the final thing I wanted to go over in this video, so I'll leave it there. As always, thank you for tuning in. I know it was kind of a gloomy video in many ways.
Those are my favorite.
Well, not some. Lots of disturbing stuff going on, to say the least. But regardless, I do hope you enjoyed my coverage, and thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and or subscribing. It helps out greatly. I look forward to seeing you here in the comments and in the next one.
President Trump says the United States is moving to
Just a second, sorry about
Welcome back.
I'm gonna be real. I think that it's very, very obvious and very, very clear that this is where things are going. You are going to have more internet censorship. You are going to have an increasingly more segmented and localized internet. You are going to have more laws on the internet. And again, if you are in the UK and you're in Australia and you're mad about this, you need to get mad about the laws that are being enforced with this law rather than being mad about this law. Because this law obviously wasn't needed for them to enforce speech laws. That's how people have been getting arrested for tweets for the last decade. So very clearly, that's not the reason why this is happening. It might make it easier for the government, but at the end of the day, it was still happening one way or another. So you need to, again, the laws and the speech rules and regulations, that's the real problem more than anything else. If we don't protest against this, it will happen. I think that, again, in the United States, and this is the thing, in the U.S., we don't really have this problem as much. Like, it's not as bad for, like, you getting in trouble for shit that you say online. If anything, it should be worse. But for other people, I think it is. Yeah, I think it absolutely is. And especially, like, in like, places in Europe and in Australia and in Canada yet. Yeah, of course, yet. I mean, obviously, you need to always be vigilant with that kind of stuff. That was a hot-ass take. It's not a hot take. It's literally a fact. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. But, like, basically, the law is the bullets. If somebody's pointing a gun at you and pulling the trigger and there aren't any bullets in it, then you're not going to get hurt. But the laws that they're using are the bullets. So focus on that, and that's what the problem is. Do you think it's a net benefit to remain anonymous on the internet? Would you trade anonymity for complete free speech online? Well, it's different because, like, so you're talking about anonymity. I think that users should be anonymous to each other, but the government should be able to find out who users are that are using ISPs. Like, for example, like if you're using an ISP and you're distributing child porn, I think that the government should be able to find out who you are and arrest you. Absolutely. Of course you should. So, yes, anonymity is, yes, and they can already do that. But I don't think that there should ever be a universe where your anonymity is at risk to other people. So, like, what I mean is that, like, on Twitter, I don't think some random person on Twitter should be able to pull your file and look at everything that you're doing on the internet. This should only be reserved for government entities under court orders and court warrants. Does that make sense? And by the way, that's pretty much how it is right now. So yeah, exactly. Court ordered, yes. Yeah, only with a court order, and that's it. Would you consider this akin to burning books back in the old days? Like even Wikipedia is getting sanitized? Yeah, I think so for sure. Definitely. You shouldn't be prosecuted for wrongthink, though. Then go after the laws for prosecuting people on wrongthink and not the laws that are being used to enforce those laws.
Guys, hope you
because that's really where the problem is more than anything. And that's really what I was trying to get at. But if the idea thing, a $44 million VPN business dies overnight, well, a lot of VPNs will turn over your information already. Like if a VPN, there are some VPNs that don't store data. And so obviously like there's nothing really for them to turn over, but I would expect that practice to, I think that's on a timer. I don't think that in maybe 10 or 20 years, that's still going to be the case because I think that companies obviously like, businesses and the government isn't going to let people continue to do that. Proton won't do it. Well, the thing is that, and this is the issue that I think a lot of you guys don't understand, is that these companies don't have any leverage. If the government tells them to do something and they don't do it, they just go to jail. They shut down the company. It's done. That's it. Like it's not like there's a negotiation here at all. The government says jump and the companies have to say how high. There's no negotiation. There's no argument. There's no, oh, but this is what the right thing to do is. They have, yes, the government has absolute power. They have a monopoly on violence. They tell the companies what to do, and the companies have to obey them, and that's it. They can't fight it. They can fight it? No, they can't. I mean, they can to an extent, but if they really do it in a big way that obscures and goes against what the law is, then they'll just simply go to they'll go there and arrest the people. That's it. If they do not store logs, they have nothing to give away. Exactly. But like, all I'm saying is that certain companies can fight it. The extent that companies can fight it is to the extent that the government allows them to fight it. Do you think that the companies can fight it here or in China? Because I guarantee you in China, the company says, oh, well, we want to do things this way. Chinese government says, no, you're not doing them this way. And the company says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll never do things that way ever again. And why is that? Everybody knows why that is. It's because the government has a monopoly on violence.